On the 22nd April 2024, 5 asylum seekers died in an overcrowded dinghy off the French coast. Jacques Biant, the prefect of Pas-de-Calais, said, "A few hundred meters from the coast, the engine stopped and several people fell into the water. 49 of the 112 migrants on the boat were brought back to shore. 3 men, a woman, and a 7-year-old girl were crushed when people smugglers crammed them onto the boat and were pronounced dead after they were brought to the beach. However, 58 people remained on the small boat after refusing to be rescued and were allowed to continue their journey to Britain, escorted by a French Navy ship. Some have suggested that under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, France has a legal obligation to save the life of anyone leaving their shores in a vessel that is overloaded or otherwise unfit to make a crossing. However, under the French interpretation of maritime law, the French Navy will not intervene to stop or turn back migrants at sea because of the risk to life, unless they request assistance. The bodies of the United Nations are all embarked on the same globalist agenda, working towards a borderless world of mass migration. So, there will be no international calls for enforcement of this UN convention. Notably, not even from the UK. And the French, with EU backing, would prolong discussions about sanctions for decades. In any event, the French have always been clear, for those that care to listen, about their position.
So the French, whether that's the military or the politicians, say you've got to sort it out at your end. You've got to have a deterrent that is going to stop people going over to the United Kingdom. A French politician I spoke to, who was very sympathetic to the British, actually used the words, Tom, "We are insulted that you're giving us money to sort this problem out." But the commitment to stopping this is not there. The French do not want to stop this, unfortunately.
Migrants are trying to cross because the British themselves are drawing them in. They've created a kind of magnet effect by not updating their laws in the 20 years since the Sangatte Protocol. The reception conditions are still the same, sometimes even better, because they need this undocumented labor force for their shadow economy.
However, following the 5 deaths and some limited international comment, the French government encouraged the police to be seen to be acting. And several UK media reporters were on hand to see a police operation on the beach. On the 24th of April 2024, many newspapers covered a report from Daniel Hammond of The Sun about the French police seeming to puncture a migrant dinghy on the French coast. The Sun reported that, as an empty dinghy approached the shore, as usual, to pick up some migrants, cops moved in. In the confusion, the waves brought the boat close to the shore, where one police officer managed to deflate it by stabbing its rubber hull with a knife. The cops judged that the dinghy was close enough to the beach for this to be done safely. However, the police ultimately failed when a second empty dinghy arrived just 15 minutes later. Despite the police's efforts with tear gas, this time the dinghy stayed away from the beach and cops failed to stop the migrants, who waded out to board the vessel and made for England. We can be sure that charities and human rights lawyers will be making representations to the French government about the cops' actions. Meanwhile, The Sun was told, "It's an impossible task. There are just too many boats now. It's like playing whack-a-mole. You stop one boat and then another arrives.